Welcome back to Heretic Owl Tarot. My name is Liz, and I will be guiding you on this journey today. This is the reading for Cancer, wherever Cancer shows up in your chart. I hope you're all doing well. And before I forget, because I will, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel. I think I'm like 8 people away now from getting to 1,000 subscribers, which feels like such a milestone. So very exciting. I would love it if you were one of those people, if you're not already. And if you are, thank you. Thank you anyway. Okay, so let me shuffle the cards a bunch of times, and then of course we'll get your spread out. It is a 3-card spread. The first card is your current energy, or what is currently surrounding you. The second card is the energy that's leaving, or the energy that's no longer serving you. And the third card is the energy that's coming in. And we're not taking the jumpers, but I love when the cards are talkative for Cancer. Okay, so for Cancer. Feels good. Alrighty, current energy. We have Call, or the Judgment card. That's real. What's leaving is the 4 of Swords. What's coming in is the 7 of Swords. How interesting. Huh. And then to clarify the Judgment card, we have the 7 of Wands. To clarify the 4 of Swords, we have the 3 of Swords. And then to clarify the 7 of Swords, we have the Hermit card. This feels like very healing, actually. Very healing. It's almost like this feeling of like, it's time. It is time. Who says that? Rafiki or whatever? Like, you know, in Lion King when he like goes to find Simba and he's like, no, quit fucking around. Like, let's go. Their shit. Let's go. Right? And they start the journey back. So we start with the Judgment card, or in this deck it is called Call. And it's more like receiving or hearing the call, right? Like of your purpose. In the book it says, I have everything I need right now to move forward with purpose. I'm being called into a deeper and more authentic relationship with myself, with my higher power, and with others. I am here for a reason. I'm required to step forward into my true self, expressing that through my actions. I need to trust that my life has a purpose, that I am enough, and that within me is a divine blueprint that has meaning for myself and others. Yeah. I love that. What's also like so interesting is that, well, Judgment is Pluto, right? We just had Pluto go into Aquarius, which is an air sign. There's a lot of air out here, actually. You know, and air rules our mind. It rules logic, right? Objectivity. Objectivity, is that the word? Like being objective, truth, honesty, but like divine truth, right? Like absent of any feeling, any opinion. It's just, it just is, right? So I think that's interesting because wherever Aquarius is for you, right? I mean, if you're a Cancer rising, that's your 8th house. I know that because I'm a Cancer rising. And the 8th house is very transformative. It's also ruled by Scorpio, who is, you know, in modern astrology, ruled by Pluto. So there's a lot of Pluto stuff happening here all of a sudden. But I think why it's coming through and why it just kind of dropped into my consciousness is because, right, like there is this over the next 19 years. So it's more of, it's not a sprint, right? It's more of a, whatever the other, if you're not sprinting, you're what, jogging, or I don't even know because I don't run, but, because, and the reason why I'm saying all of this, I'm like, let me bring it back to my point, is because judgment is a very transformative card. It's the card that comes before the world card. So it's at the end of the fool's journey. It's at a point where you like make that decision to move on to the next thing, to close out old cycles, to close out, the ways of being, behavior patterns, thought patterns, relationship patterns, like, whatever it has been. You received all of the lessons, all of the information, all of the pain, all of the healing, like you've received all of that by the time you got to the judgment card. And it's, first of all, recognizing how much that has had an impact on you, right? Like just life in general. You think about even the last year, let alone, your whole life from birth, but even just the last year, the last month, the last 2 weeks, right? Like, because things really can change just like that. But it is recognizing that there is this transformation. There is also a need to make that decision to move on, to close out something. There's this meditation that I've been listening to. It's a Steve Noble meditation. And towards the end of it, he says a couple times, allow the healing to be complete. That's how like this feels. So it is like being at a pivotal spot, not to mention anyway too, right? Like, because what I just read, you do have a purpose. You are enough. You are here for a reason. You're being called into a deeper, more authentic relationship with yourself, with your higher power, with other people. And it's interesting, it's paired with the Seven of Wands. Also, too, how most of these cards are throat chakra color blue. So even that, like there could be something going on with your throat chakra, whether it's needing to be quiet or whether it's needing to speak, and discerning between the two, right? There's a period of time, like a couple weeks ago for me, where I was like, I just feel like I need to shut up. Like, I just kind of felt like I was almost like giving too much away. And also too, like by saying the things that I was saying or sharing the things that I was saying, I was like, it doesn't really necessarily feel authentic. Like I feel like I was doing it because I don't know, I wanted like validation, or I wanted people to be informed about my life or some stupid, like, it was just like, why am I saying the things that I'm saying? I don't know. So shut up. Right. And obviously, I mean, it only lasted for like a period of time, but also I think you become more discerning, more intentional with what you are saying, what's coming out of your face, right? So, Seven of Wands, fire, energy, obviously. We actually have every element on the table, and anytime like every element is on the table, like to me it feels very balanced, because it's like every element, every little thing is getting a little bit of attention. Like you're touching on water with, because like I said, Pluto is a modern rulership of Scorpio. Scorpio is a water sign. Fire, air, Hermit is Virgo, so that's earth. Anyway, I keep like mentioning the Seven of Wands, and then I keep like going off on tangents. So, of course, fire, right? Like it's the actions that we take, the motivation behind the actions that we take. It's creativity, it's passion, How are we communicating those things? What actions are we taking towards those things? I also see wands as being information by way of experience, because that's what we get by trying things, right? We figure out what works, we figure out what doesn't work, what stays, what goes, what fits. And truly, the only way to discover that is by trying. I was kind of like, I give these examples of like, there have been so many hobbies that I was like convinced I was going to love and like make it totally part of my personality, and I'm going to do this every day. And I tried it and hated it. Like I was like, oh my God, no, I can't even believe that I thought that this was, but there's been plenty of other things where I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. And I tried it, loved it, right? I mean, there's been plenty of things that I was like, oh my gosh, I'll love that. And I actually did, right? Anywhere in between. There's also things where it was like, I like this aspect of the thing, but not this aspect of the thing. So I'm going to tweak this aspect of the thing and see if I can, kind of piecemeal things together. But the point is, all of that happened because I tried. I tried the thing. So when we get to the Seven of Wands, the Seven of Wands is like self-defense, having to defend your actions or stand your ground a bit. To me, in this card, it feels like reaching a point of, it's like reaching a goal. They're standing on top of this mountain here. Also, too, it feels like this card specifically feels like allowing yourself to be seen. Even just the unicorn imagery, right? Because when we think unicorns, we think of something unique, we think of something rare. Obviously, something mythical. Like it's allowing your own uniqueness to be seen. And it also, too, it may take a bit of oomph to get you there. Like really kind of putting a fire under your own ass. Or even just having to trust yourself, right? Because it can't be like looking for outside validation. Because if we do that, when we do that, like it's such a house of cards, because any negative feedback could just take you out, right? Because that's usually how I see the Seven of Wands. There's usually a person standing in the middle and 6 wands coming towards them, and they're holding the 7th wand in like a defensive stance. And to me, I always see those 6 wands as being other people's projections, other people's, I could never do that, or no, don't do it that way, do it this way, or right. It's like they're inserting their opinions, their thoughts, their feelings, whatever. And you're just like, I didn't even ask though. Like, this is something that I need to figure out for myself, or that like I do want to figure out for myself. And of course, it's like not necessarily being totally shut down to like any type of advice or whatever, but it's not accepting negative criticism outright, right? Or even positive I mean, just do your thing. Right? It's like, it's do the things that feel good for you. Follow your own passion, follow your own creativity, be in your own integrity, also very importante. And everything else, like doors will open, opportunities will show up, you'll figure things out, right? It's like discovering your own purpose, but you can't do that by following what other people think is right, because they're thinking in terms of themselves. Well, that's not right for me, so how could it possibly be right for you? Well, what? That doesn't make any type of sense, right? So what we move on to, what's leaving or what's no longer serving you, interesting, is the 3 of Swords. Well, the 4 of Swords paired or clarified by the 3 of Swords. First of all, I love a progression in a reading. This to me still does feel like a progression, even though the 4 of Swords came out first. Because it almost kind of feels like if you've been in this like constant cycle of like rest, healing, discovering things, like giving your mind a break, it's like not directly focusing on the Three of Swords, which is disappointment, betrayal, heartbreak, but it is swords though, right? So it's how those stories live in our mind, or what stories we attached to those experiences, to those feelings. And also, I see swords as being the suit of ego, because that's generally where we hear our ego is, in our minds. And our ego is created by the stories that we attach to experiences, people, feelings. It's, our belief system, and how we even came to have that belief system, right? It becomes our personality, it becomes our temperament, it becomes the reasons why we do and don't do certain things, right? So whether they're true or not, whether they're true stories or something that was projected onto you, or it was something that you adapted as being part of your story, right? Like I said, the Four of Swords is rest, it is healing, it is kind of taking a break, especially because it does come directly after the Three of Swords, and the Three of Swords is that betrayal, that heartbreak. I think it's also interesting how there are three birds in here. There's one bird there, three there. I don't know if I ever noticed that in this card. And it's interesting, these two birds over here, this one is like, I'll go with you. So, I mean, it could have been a third party type of situation. As far as, like in a relationship, maybe somebody stepped out, but it could also have been like, parents, you as a child, like, right? Like feeling two against one. It could have been a friend group, two, where you just felt like the third wheel type of thing. And of course, because both of those things feel very much in the past, right? So, I mean, this could, of course, be something that is more recent past. It doesn't have to be that far away, but it's like the thing that kind of zapped your energy. But if you've been kind of in this mode of, really trying to work through what that is, but then just kind of slipping back into the Three of Swords energy, just, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because I do think that like every time we go back to those, especially if we are conscious and aware of those things, it's almost like it's going back to get more clarity or to get more information. Like I know for me personally, there's been plenty of things that I have revisited, and even just actually around the Taurus full moon, I had a major aha around like friend groups and stuff like that. And but it was one of those things of like, I've probably talked about this subject, multiple times, but all of a sudden like new information was available, or I had a new level of clarity with it. So it's like active processing, right? Like instead of like falling back into it and feeling helpless or feeling controlled by it, it's in the position of what's leaving or what is no longer serving. So being in that cycle or being on that hamster wheel is not helping anymore. And two, it could be that you've gotten what you needed to get from it, and it's time to move beyond. Then we move on to the Seven of Swords and the Hermit card. I kind of love this because so on the Three of Swords, it was standing out to me, these birds, right? This bird appears to be going with this angel or this person. These two birds are like, we'll stay over here. But then in the Seven of Swords, There's these two doves. There's, ducks down here. I think this is another bird. I'm like trying to I'm trying to figure out like what this is on their knee. I think it is another bird that's like looking up at her. And to me, it's like finding your people. It doesn't necessarily have to, of course, be people, right? I mean, all of these are like birds. But it's like finding your vibe, right? It's finding your own flow, which is interesting because the Seven of Swords usually talk. First of all, we have two sevens out here. I just figured that out. And 3 plus 4 is also 7. So that's interesting. That's weird. You might be seeing sevens around you a lot, or you will. And if you do, just, it's almost like confirmation, of course. But the Seven of Swords usually talks about deceit, like trickery, manipulation. I also see the Seven of Swords as being the card of us fooling ourselves. It's self-sabotage. It's, I think Brene Brown calls them gremlins, right? Like our shame stories, or like the stories that come up when we attempt to do certain things, or when we attempt to accept ourselves, or accept our purpose, or accept our circumstances, or whatever, right? Then there's like this story that comes up that's like, you don't deserve it, you're not worth it, you're not blah, 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 whatever, whatever lie that somehow gets attached to that. So that's usually the Seven of Swords energy, right? But like this card to me has this feeling of, it could even be too like the people that you surround yourself with, the energy that you surround yourself with may not be what you think it's going to be. Birds of a feather, right? Like that just came to mind. So it's almost like really keeping an open mind, because, right, I mean, there's many different types of birds out there. And if you're like, I would only recognize another duck or something. I know this is so random, but I'm just going with it. But right, like if you're like, I would only recognize, the same energy as being another duck, then it's like you're missing out on an opportunity to, because maybe it's a dove that's coming in, or maybe it's, whatever other type of, whatever other type of birds. That's so funny. The bird thing, but just to, get the point across. I also think it's interesting that, these two cards, of course, do feel a bit melancholy. They do feel it's like they're folding in on themselves, right? Like just very, as far as the body language goes, their arms are across them, closed off. This person, they're sitting straight up. Their hands are on their lap, right? So it just feels more open. And then it's paired with the Hermit card, which is introspection. It is a bit of like isolation, but it's more so like I see the Hermit as being, again, following your unique path. Truly, your path is unique to you. And if you're trying to emulate or copy somebody else's path, it doesn't usually work in the long run. It's one thing to be inspired, right? It's one thing to be like, oh, I didn't even realize that was possible. Or, again, right, it's trying things like, I do have an interest in that, or whatever the case may be. But it's at some point though, you have to, again, like break off and like follow your own creativity, your own passions. It's interesting. This does look like a door, and there's all these keys that are hanging above it. That feels very, like in Harry Potter. Was it I'm trying to think of which one it was, where they were like flying with all of the keys. Was it the first movie? Honestly, I can't even remember. But there were, all those keys, and they had to find the key that fit into the door. There's 7 keys on here, right? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which is also interesting with the 7 of Swords, with the 7 of Wands. 7 might just be like the number for right now. Maybe even just writing down the number 7 somewhere that you can see it. I don't know. But like you would have to try each one of those keys to see if it worked. Right? So it goes back to trying things. Like this whole thing is, this whole thing has been about trying different things, putting yourself out there in some capacity. It does feel very personal because none of these cards have another person on them. It's like coming up to an opportunity because, when I think doors, I think opportunity, or let's see what's behind door number 1, right? It's again, right? But you have to choose it. So this whole thing is like this motivation to get you, to open this door and see what is behind it. And then I was just looking at the bottom of the deck. So I'm like, what would be behind that? Which is, like at the bottom of the deck. And we have the 8 of Pentacles. And then we have the Love card. This is a Lover's card. So that's interesting. Let me look this up. I want to see what this card says. Okay. So this card says, in all of life, there is only the illusion of separation. In fact, we are all reflections of one another. When I make choices, I tend to see things as either or. What if every choice I make is about an experience, a sharing, and an exploring? When I choose to see the unity in all things, magic abounds. Love is all around me. Spirit loves me unconditionally, and I can give and receive abundant love. I love that. I love that this pair is behind or at the bottom of the deck. I haven't even been reading the cards at the bottom of the deck, but I was like, what is behind this door? Because it's kind of like, right? Maybe I should have left it more to the imagination, but the 8 of Pentacles is, it has this feeling of like finding work that you love, or, putting your, even of course with the Love card, it's putting your time, your energy, your resources, your physical, presence, or your physical labor into something that you love, that you enjoy, that you actually do want to put your time, your energy, and even if that is yourself, right? It doesn't have to be putting that into other people, putting that into other things. It can definitely be pouring into your own cup. But I love that the Lover's card talks about, in fact, we are all reflections of one another. When we make choices, we tend to see things as either or. What if every choice I make is about an experience, a sharing, and exploring, right? Because like I said, this whole reading has been about trying different things, putting yourself out there, just doing something, which I hope that is a message that resonates with you. It definitely resonates with me. So I am going to leave it there. Thank you so much for allowing me to read your cards. This was beautiful. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.